So today we will be going over Ultimate Wolverine issue number 10. Once again, we have a pretty decent cover. You've got Omega Red's face reflected in the blade of his sword. And as always, with the Ultimate Comics, we have the Virgin variant behind it. So we start off with Sabretooth and Wolverine kind of putting aside the little difference they've been having to a degree. Sabretooth explains to Wolverine that he was going to try to track him down and kill him like he promised. He had even found a sword to do it. So this is where they introduced Marasani, or whatever that blade's called, the one that's forged that can kill people with healing factors. In the regular universe, it was made from, if I remember right, it was made from Wolverine's rage or something. But they don't really explain what it's made out of here. Just that it can kill people who can heal. And he tells Wolverine that he's leaving, that Artie and Leech that he has took under his care, he wants to go give them a better life, so he's leaving this fight to tend to them. But he wanted to leave the sword with Wolverine. And we go to the Eurasian Council, where Colossus is not very happy about this ongoing situation with Wolverine. And the doctor comes in there and tells Colossus, we think we finally found where the rebellion is holed up at. They're at Chernobyl. So Colossus and Magic decide to send Omega Red ahead to scout to make sure that's where they're at. So as Sabretooth is getting ready to leave, they get attacked. So Wolverine goes for the sword, and we're going to have our first major run-in with Omega Red, the ultimate Omega Red. Omega Red grabs Wolverine and takes the sword. I mean, there's not a lot going on outside of the action here. I'm not explaining a lot, but there's not a lot to be explained right now. It's mainly just a lot of action. Omega Red is suspecting that there's something more to the sword than what it appears. Wolverine cuts one of his tentacles off, hits him in the shoulder and the arm, takes the sword back, and Omega Red takes the life of the other soldiers around him to give himself more of his life back. Here we see Archangel back here as part of the X-Men team. We see Marrow, we see Iceman. I'm assuming that's probably Forge. So the only thing I don't see is it feels like they have dropped the ball on Jean Grey Phoenix. They kind of left her with the Eurasian Council for some reason. I don't know why they haven't went back and got her. So Omega Red goes to take on all of the X-Men, and needless to say, it's not going to work out very well for him. So the commander brings in a box to Colossus that comes back from the mission, He opens the box and Omega Red's head is laying in there, and basically he calls out Colossus and Magic, and that's how this issue ends. Is they have just declared war on Colossus and Magic. So let's kind of go over this sword. I mean, not this sword. Let's go over this story some. Let's review back over what we just read. There was a lot of action going on and not a lot of story movement. So Sabretooth wants out, which makes sense in a way for this story because Wolverine and Sabretooth are so similar that there's not really enough room in this story for two of them on the same side. I mean, as much as I'd like to see a good Wolverine and Sabretooth working together for a while thing, it doesn't work in reality because it's basically the same character, just, you know, one with a darker side, which works for a villain but doesn't work for them both to be heroes. So it kind of makes sense for Sabretooth to move on if they've got Wolverine back where they want him as a hero. Sabretooth kind of Sabretooth and Wolverine is a bit too much. So I understand them wanting to phase Sabretooth out a little. Uh, the fight with Omega Red was okay, but I feel like it fell flat. There's a very common thing with Wolverine comics since this sword was invented, to where when a fight gets tough, the easy fallback is Wolverine goes and finds this sword and uses it, and the fight's over. I mean, he's killed Sabretooth with it twice now that I know of. You know, Jeff Loeb done the story. I think it was Wolverine Evolution, where Wolverine first killed Sabretooth with it. Then I think he killed him again with it in what was that Wolverine story from the Krakoa story? Sabretooth War. I think he killed Sabretooth at the end with the sword. You know, he was using it to fight Romulus at the end of Wolverine Origins. I mean, it's Wolverine doesn't need this sword. The sword was a good idea when it was invented as a weapon to be used against Wolverine by the X-Men. You know, if Wolverine ever turned bad, the X-Men would have a weapon to stop him. But it doesn't work well when you've got this unstoppable weapon that is Wolverine having to use an even more unstoppable weapon on top of that. Like it it's too much. The reason I want to read Wolverine is because Wolverine is a weapon itself. He doesn't need these additional swords that can kill anything. He ought to be able to kill anything himself. And anything with a healing factor like him, I mean, it's you just have to take them out somehow and move on. I mean, Spider-Man fights villains every day without killing them. You just find a way to take them out, and then you worry about them next time they come around. But writers on Wolverine, since his sword has been created, are too quick to just go and grab this sword and just kill whoever they're fighting. So I feel like the sword is overused. Just like here, this would have been a great fight between Wolverine and Omega Red. That was very cut short. Omega Red is a phenomenal villain that oftentimes gets very underrated, gets very underused. I mean, when Omega Red first come out during Jim Lee's run, I mean, Omega Red, he looked intimidating. He looked. I mean, he had Wolverine where Wolverine was on the run from him. He him and Wolverine fought to exhaustion, and he beat Wolverine. Omega Red was a big threat to himself. His death spores, you know, were enough to overload most of Wolverine's healing factor, so you had the threat there to where they were kind of on equal ground. And then you get this, where once again we have a sword doing Wolverine's job. It's a quick, easy. It's an easy out for you not wanting to draw a nice fight. So anyway, moving on from that, I feel like Omega Red was very underused. You've had Omega Red here since like issue 1. He's one of the main members of the council, and the fight's a couple of pages and he's gone. That's what I mean about the writers and all them. Marvel royally messed this line up by prematurely ending it, because now the people who's writing it and all, they really don't care how the story ends up, because it's 6 issues away from being done, from ended. So the whole thing with Colossus being bad, I mean, I don't know why Marvel's jumping on that train here lately. I mean, you had it with Wolverine Revenge miniseries, you got it here. They tried it a little after Fatal Attractions, where Colossus switched over to Magneto's side. I mean, I don't know why Marvel is trying to take what was their most pure-hearted character and completely warp him. I mean, anybody who has read X-Men as long as I have, who remembers the Chris Claremont stuff, that was what I was raised on. And you look at where the X-Men were then individually, and you look at what Marvel has done with them now. Marvel has tried to take every one of the X-Men that were wholesome, that had an innocence to them, and Marvel has tried to turn all of them into the complete opposite of what they started as. Marvel just does not believe in a wholesome character anymore. You know, look at Spider-Man. They are slaughtering Spider-Man right now. Spider-Man is in the worst spot he has ever been in the 60-some years he's been around. But we're not getting into that. That's a side rant. We're still focusing on this. This issue, with all that being said, it was okay, but I feel like the issues are starting to slip again. They're not as fun to read. They're not as engaging as they were. Uh, they kind of peaked with what, issue 7, maybe 8, something like that. 8, I think. No, yeah, I think it was 8. It kind of peaked out at 8. Whatever issue the Archangel issue was, that was like the peak of it, and then it's kind of dropped. We're getting back down into where it's just becoming a chore to read it now. Story wise, I'm going to give it a 6.5, because I really wasn't too engaged in the story. Art wise, the art is pretty much the same art. I mean, I'm still not crazy about it, but I don't completely hate it either. I mean, it gets like a 6.5 too. Overall, this issue's a 6.5. I mean, I read it free on the Marvel Unlimited. Well, not free, but I'm paying like $10 a month. But I feel like if I would have paid the $4.99 for these last 2 or 3 issues, I probably wouldn't be buying them anymore. So since I can read them for free, I will probably finish the series since it ain't got but a couple of issues left. But honestly, I'll be kind of glad to see it go. So that's my overall review on this. So I will see you next time.